Hey, Deborah.
Hey, Greg. Hey,
Hey,
Sam.
hey. How are you?
I'm doing pretty well. And I have started to have questions about like some of the archangels
Mhm,
and specifically Raphael.
mhm,
Um, I've got oils for several of them from your classes.
mhm.
Um, and I was curious to um, reach out to them to be guided to connect with them.
Mhm.
Is that what those oils are for?
What are you trying to do with it?
Um, to connect
With the
with,
angel,
yeah.
right? Yeah, you could use it for that. You could use it for that, and keep in mind, like Raphael is considered the healer, and so it's associated with transmutation, transmutation in the body. And so, anytime you're invoking Raphael, even if you're not using the oil, there is a little bit of engaging this transmutation process. And so, it also is associated with planet Mercury, right? And so, Mercury has to do with communication, but it also has to do with like how the two sides of your brain communicate, like the left side and the right side, and then how we communicate from the inner world to the outer world and vice versa, right? So there's these different kind of crossing these communication barriers, you could say. And so all of that is still tied to transmutation, for you to be able to have those two sides of your brain a little bit more harmonized, where you're able to access a bit of the right side of the brain. There is transmutation of like the lower centers is like how you would get there. And so if you think about it, like in the early stages, like when somebody says like, oh, that person's awakened or whatever, the early stage is actually the awakening of the intuitive side of the mind. And part of that is tied to the transmutation of the lower nature. Without the transmutation of the lower nature, it's really hard to tap into the intuitive side, because the lower nature is very like the everyday mind, the sensory mind. It's living by the senses, it's living by reactions, it's living by instinctual responses, it's living by lower emotions and how to process it and all these things. And so the act of going through and transmuting some of these things, starts to allow for the two sides of the brain to work a little bit more harmoniously, but it starts to kind of kick in more of the intuitive side of the mind. And when we do like the Lama Yoga breath, or we do the materialization breath, which they're the same, it's just the materialization breath has the throat lock, right? So that breath,
Mhm.
uh, uh, you're actually still even doing something similar with that. You're moving energy from the lower centers. You're activating the things that are higher, but in that breath, either version of it, in that breath, you are stimulating the intuitive side of the mind, because like especially with the materialization breath, you're materializing light. And so for light to be able to come in, that intuitive side has to be a bit activated. Like light doesn't come in the left side of our brain, it doesn't come in through the sensory mind, it comes in more through the intuitive mind, and then starts to work its way down, through the abstract mind, and then the lower mind, and then eventually even the instinctive mind. And so by going through and working with the Archangel Raphael blends, you're doing that. But to augment that, you could think of Raphael with your awareness on the heart, and then inhale, and then do the materialization breath with the blend. So you're getting kind of a twofer with that, two things with one set of effort, or one grouping of effort. I don't know how to say that,
Oh, I
one effort unit.
I like that. I'm not
Yeah.
sure I understood the transmuting of the lower self. I mean, I understand the concept, but
Yeah, so the lower self would be actually, like, if you look at it from an energetic point of view, it's the lower chakras. So it's like your navel, your sex chakra, your basic, the Ming Men, the spleen, but it's tied to the body. Like, it's tied to the physiological drives of the body, the drive for survival, the drive to establish yourself and thrive in the environment. And so, which is still necessary. It's like, we don't want to shut it down, but we want to temper some of those things so that lower emotions eventually turn into higher emotions, and the instinctive mind eventually turns into the intuitive mind. And so we have these like lower drives that are more survival oriented, that as one kind of grows, you're tempering those things. Like, you could say, like, in a way, vanquishing, but vanquishing means like having mastery over it. Like, like, even if you get a little triggered, you're like, okay, I'm triggered, but it's also not real, and it's about something in the past, and I'm gonna let it pass.
so Greg,
Mhm.
um, I'm when I go to meditate,
Mhm.
I see green, and I'm
Mhm.
being led to believe that that is some sort of connection with Archangel Raphael. And so I wanted to explore that connection more. And do you
How,
think
how are
that
how are you seeing the green? I'm just curious. You just see green in front of your eyes, or you feel like you're floating in green, or
um, well, I seem to sense things differently from a lot of my peers.
Mhm.
So it's really, yeah, it is in front of my eyes, but
Okay.
the floating sensation is only starting recently that I have that, but um, really, it's the green is intense, and then the images start appearing in my head.
Okay.
So
Yeah, I mean, regardless or not, working with Raphael is amazing. I would say, like, the things going on in the world today, or in the US or whatever, with all the things you read in the news, Raphael is definitely one of the remedies. So, um,
so I could just work with that one oil and do the
mhm,
materialization breath on a maybe on a lots of repetitions,
mhm.
and that itself, I should start to see some changes. Do you think?
Changes in what?
Um, maybe the experience that I'm having with this.
Um, yeah, it's hard to say. I mean, I would think so, but like, it's a little bit harder to predict with the working with the angels and the archangels. It does impact your physiology, but it's not as specific as like treating a symptom or trying to do a desired result. You're really like helping your physiology, like, evolve, like, be more easily tempered and things. And so, in theory, something should start to happen, but it's a little bit different working with angelical energies than it is like with working like with something that we use for like a sore shoulder or something. And so, in theory, possibly, and even probably, but um you know hard to say. The thing is, like, going back to the way you say you see things, is um a lot of times we see things more metaphorically than than like literally. I mean, some people still see things very literally, but sometimes it's a metaphor. And so yeah, it could mean healing. Green in theory is associated with the heart, although the heart doesn't produce a green. Could be associated with an element. It could be, in the four directions, it's the west. I mean, there's different reasons. There's even deities that you do devotional practices to that you would have flashes of green. And so I'm not sure why the green is there, but it's a nice color. Like it's it's very healing. It breaks up stagnant energy and helps to refine energy, and that's why it's tied to transmutation. Is it breaks down heavier, thicker. I started to say thicker energy to make it more refined so that it circulates in the body more and you're able to expel things off better. And so I mean, I would explore it, especially working with angels. Like I always like to take the approach of let's explore it, but let's not have an expectation of what's going to happen. And there's some things that are kind of consistent that happen, and there are some things that are different from person to person. And so for you, I'm not sure where this one falls, but I would definitely explore it. I mean, green's the color of Raphael, green's the color of Mercury. Like, I mean, right? Green's Mercury, right? I think so. Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, I would explore it.
Okay.
Yeah.
If you think of anything else, thanks. I appreciate it.
Well, I think that's a good place to start. Like I'd play with it and see where it goes.
Yeah, I will. Thanks
You're
so
so
much.
welcome.